Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So recently on Twitter, I was talking about how in the past I was very hung up on a relationship that was very short-lived. Like we had a lot of plans that we talked about. We had like a future that we talked about, but we did not get a chance to actually play out the relationship. It ended quite abruptly and quite quickly. And I was very stuck on that relationship for a very long time. And on Twitter, I was explaining how we get stuck on those types of relationships because of the fact that it did not get a chance to play out. So the fantasy that we had in our minds, or like the plans that we had with the person, it's still lingering. And that's why we have a hard time letting it go, because it's like that fantasy or that ideal relationship that we had in mind is what we're actually clinging on to. So sometimes in order to get past that, it's good to have a tarot reading about what would have happened, like how your relationship would have been if things would have, played out. And that's exactly what I did back then. I went to my tarot reader and I asked her, what my relationship would have been like with him. And what she described was very different from the fantasy that I had in my mind. And it definitely helped me to let go. It definitely helped me to release and gave me a lot of closure. So I decided that I wanted to do that for you guys today. So as you can see by the title, this is going to be a pick a card reading about what, could have happened if you stayed with that person. And you'll know the person I'm talking about because it'll be the first person that comes to mind. Like whenever you clicked on this video, the first person that comes to mind, that's who I'm talking about. And I'll also be offering a special in my tarot shop on my tarot site. I'll be offering a special where you can book an in-depth reading about, what could have happened. So it's kind of like a closure reading. So you can book that in my tarot site if this reading resonates with you. And I made it, an affordable price, or as affordable as I could make it, because tarot, does take a lot of energy, but I tried to make it very affordable. So if any of these messages resonate with you, in this video, you can book a personal reading with me and we'll go more in depth in order for you to release and, get that closure. So the link to that will be in the description box. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and dive into this pick a card. As you can see on the screen, there are 3 cards to choose from. All 3 of these cards are from the anime Fruits Basket. I highly recommend. It is my favorite anime that I've ever watched. It's called Fruits Baskets, like I said. And the first card is a couple from the show, Kyo and Toru. And the second card is a couple, and their names are Hatsuharu and Isuzu. And then the third card is a couple from the show named Akito and Shigure. So just look at those cards, even if you've never watched the show. Just look at whatever card you feel more drawn towards, or whatever you resonate with. That's going to be the cards that have the messages for you. So just take a second, pause the screen if you need to, figure out, like I said, which card is calling to you intuitively, and then the timestamps for each card will be in the description box. So you can go down there and click that timestamp, and then you will get the messages of what your life would have been like if you stayed with that person. So let's go ahead and get into your readings. Okay, group number 1. So let's see what your relationship would have been like with this person had it actually, played out, or if you had ended up with them long term. So the first card that came out is the Calling the Storm card. Immediately what I'm feeling from this card is that there would have been a lot of power struggles within this relationship. And I'm feeling that very strongly. It's like every argument or every conflict that you would have, one person would walk away feeling triumphant while the other one would walk away feeling defeated, which obviously is not good for a healthy relationship, because in a healthy relationship, there would be compromise. There would be both people, being able to work out their conflict so that both people feel validated, both people still feel heard, and both people feel loved. But there's like this like imbalance of power where it's like one person has to have the upper hand, and the other person ends up, like I said, walking away just feeling completely invalidated, feeling completely unheard and unloved. So I mean, obviously that's not good. And this usually does take place when there is a power, there's an imbalance of power from the very beginning of the relationship. So for example, if it starts out where someone is emotionally unavailable and the other one is emotionally available, that's an imbalance of power, because the emotionally unavailable one is going to be the one that's a bit more in control, which I'm sure, a lot of you have probably experienced. Like if you ever dated an emotionally unavailable person, or maybe you've been that person, you know that there's a certain level of control that comes with that, because when you withhold emotions, it usually makes the other person a bit more like clingy, or they want to open you up. And like I said, that can cause like an uneven distribution of power, like within the connection. So it looks like there was like some sort of unevenness in the connection from the very beginning, and it would have just got worse as the relationship went on. So the next two cards are the Six of Pentacles and the Mature Man card. Again, this is talking about the imbalance of power. Because when you look at the Six of Pentacles, you see there's like two people kind of like begging, like they're like on their knees. And then there's a person who is standing upright on his feet that's helping them out. There's like there's an imbalance. One person has the means to help the other because one is in a more lowly position. So that's what I'm seeing. Again, it just keeps going back to these power struggles where one person feels less than, the other person feels better, or the other person feels more in control. And with the Mature Man card being here, this could literally mean there was like an age difference between you and this person, or it could just mean that one person is more mature than the other, more advanced than the other, or one person thinks that they're more mature than the other. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Sometimes it really is that one person is more mature than the other, right? Like if, let's say that you've been through, more relationships than this person. So maybe you have a better idea of what it takes to navigate through a relationship. You know how to handle conflict better than that person. Then that's what I mean by like, one is more mature than the other, and that can cause, some issues. But like I said, it could also be that one person thinks they're more mature than the other. And that goes back to what I was feeling about the emotionally unavailable thing, because sometimes when people are emotionally unavailable, they can sometimes mistake that for emotional maturity. And they could think, my ability to withhold my emotions means that I'm mature. But that isn't necessarily true, because sometimes withholding your emotions is a sign of emotional immaturity, because you have to know when it's time to be vulnerable, when it's time to open up in order to, resolve conflict the right way. So it could have been that one person was thinking that they're more emotionally mature, while at the same time they're actually sabotaging the relationship. So that's what I'm seeing. There's some sort of imbalance. An imbalance could also be like maybe one person makes more money than the person, and one person could have been intimidated by that. It's some sort of imbalance that is like causing issues. What I'm seeing, or could have been causing insecurities. So with the Sun card being here in the reverse, and then the Message of Concern card being here, in this relationship, I'm seeing that there would have been very little fun, like that lighthearted, fun energy that you may have wanted in the relationship. It definitely would not have been there with the Sun card. With the Sun card being in the reverse, it's like there would have been a very serious tone to the relationship, because there would have been so many issues, so many problems. There would have been, sorry, I can't even talk today. There would have been always something to address all the time. Like it's like a new problem every day, to the point where you don't even get to feel close to the person. You don't even get to feel like that intimacy. You don't get to feel safe. You don't get to just allow your inner child to come out with this person. And so it's like, I'm not seeing you being very happy with that. Like, who would be happy with that? With the constant arguments, the constant bickering. And even when there weren't arguments, even when things were calm, the fact that certain problems did not get solved was enough to where you didn't feel close to the person. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you don't resolve a problem in a healthy way, it can actually kill intimacy, so that even when you're not arguing, you really don't want to be close to the person, because you really don't trust them, because you know that once another argument comes, you're going to be receiving the short end of the stick, just like you did last time. Like, for example, if you get into an argument and they kind of stonewall or close off, and they don't open up and solve it with you in a vulnerable way, and you leave the argument feeling very, unheard and feeling very unloved, it's like, okay, we're not arguing anymore, but I damn sure don't want to be close to you now. Like, I don't want to be nice to you. I don't want to, be intimate with you. Like, no, you know what I'm saying? So it's like it's something about the intimacy being killed by the conflict and by the way that the conflict is handled. So it would have been a very, like I said, serious undertone to this relationship. And it's not fun. And for a lot of you, I'm hearing that you would have wanted it to be fun. And also I do see like your nervous system being in overdrive a lot with the message of concern card being here. And when I say your nervous system in overdrive, I mean like constantly being in fight or flight mode, because you don't feel safe in this relationship. You don't feel emotionally safe, I should say. So it's like your nervous system is very dysregulated, and this person doesn't do anything to help with that. They just put you in a state of confusion. They put your nervous system in a frenzy, and it's like you're constantly having to soothe yourself. You're constantly having to calm yourself down, even though they're the ones who, may have been hurting you. It's like they put you in pain and then leave you there. They don't even try to help you out of it. Which is very, very unfortunate. I've definitely been in a relationship like that, and it was not fun whatsoever. Very bad for your health as well, because if you're constantly in fight or flight mode and your partner is making it worse, like they're constantly triggering you, no, it's not good. In the long run, it's very bad for your health. So that's what I'm seeing for those cards. And the last two cards that I'm seeing here are the Three of Swords in the reverse and also the Community card. Okay, so I really don't like to see this Community in reverse card when it comes to relationships, because I see that as like you don't have the support of like family or loved ones. Now, I can read this in two different ways. It could be that, maybe you yourself, like you are isolated from family, like maybe you don't resonate with your family, you don't get along with them, and so when you're in this relationship, you could have been clinging on to it because of the fact that you don't have family. You could have considered this person family, and it would have been hard to leave this relationship because of that. You would have stayed in this for a very long time, no matter how unhappy you were, because you would have considered this person your only family, quote unquote, right? Which is just not good. And that's how a lot of people do end up staying in these toxic relationships, because they don't have a family, they don't have a support system, they don't have good friends. So they cling on to this one person to get their emotional needs met. So no matter how badly the person treats you, it's like, I'm staying in this because this is the only person that I have. You see what I'm saying? But I could also read this as, whatever family is involved, like whatever family and friends are involved, they're like toxic in some way. So it's like the friends who kind of butt into your relationship, but not in a good way. I know that I have been in a relationship in the past where the guy, oh my God, his friends were so toxic, jealous, petty. And it was weird because I was the only one that could see that they were like this. He was very like, I'm not going to say he was brainwashed, but he was very naive to the fact that these people were like very jealous of him, jealous of our relationship, and they would do things intentionally to try to sabotage our relationship. One even like lied one time and said that he slept with me in the past, which I never even met this man in person. It was so bizarre. But anyway, I'm going on. I'm like going a tangent about my own life. But anyway, that's how I read this Community card. It's like outside family or outside friends, like toxic, and trying to interfere in the relationship. And obviously if the relationship, like from what I was seeing in the cards, if the relationship is already like kind of unstable, these outside people have the ability to really cause harm. Like, a stable relationship, outside people trying to come in and cause harm, it can withstand that, right? Like I saw on TikTok, this girl was talking about how her husband's family is very toxic and was constantly trying to butt into their relationship, and the husband cut ties with them. Like they're a solid couple. So, the family wasn't able to get in and infiltrate and cause her any harm because her husband was right there, defending her, and ended up cutting ties with the family, But if your relationship is unstable and, there's like a lack of security, there's a lack of feeling emotionally safe and nurtured, then yeah, if the other person's family or friends is like attacking you or whatever else, the relationship is going to fall, or you're going to fall. Like you're going to feel just extremely like emotionally beat down, and you still probably wouldn't leave, because I'm just seeing like this energy of would not leave because of how strong this connection was, so it's like there would have been a lot of suppression. I'm seeing the Three of Swords in reverse as like suppression, suppressing the heartache, suppressing your emotional needs because they're not getting met. So it's like you're trying to bend your yourself to fit, what this person can give you. You want like emotional closeness. You want a lighthearted relationship, but the person can't give it to you. So you're like, okay, maybe I should lower my standards a bit. Maybe I should just be happy with what I have, or maybe I should be more like this or more like that. It's like trying to bend yourself and, like kind of like just trying to remove any emotional needs that you have just to be able to stay in the relationship, trying to convince yourself that it doesn't hurt as bad as what it does, trying to convince yourself that, okay, I thought that I wanted this, romantic relationship, but, he's not that romantic. So, or he or she is not that romantic. So, I'll just deal with that. Like that sort of thing, like settling, and just not being happy in the long run. So I would say that not being in this relationship would have been a good thing for you, even though, yeah, there could have been good times at times. Overall, it just looks like this would not have been a good relationship for you. It just wouldn't have been. And I'm even seeing with the Six of Pentacles that it would have affected your finances as well. Because a lot of people don't know this, but maybe a lot of people do, but usually when I bring it up, people are like, oh, I didn't even think of it that way. When you're in like a toxic relationship, it seeps into every area of your life, including your money. And I've experienced this firsthand. I've been in toxic relationships where my money drastically decreased, for many different reasons. Sometimes, it's because the relationship is taking such a toll on your health. You can't work as much. Or sometimes it's just energetic where you feel drained, like your energy is being drained, and money is also energy. So your money starts being drained as well. It can seep into all areas of your life, including your finances. So I feel like if you have any goals, dreams, and things like that, that you want to accomplish in order to make more finances, this person would have definitely, without a doubt, been in the way, is what I'm seeing. So yeah. And like I said, I just keep on hearing like you wouldn't have been able to leave. You would not have been able to get out of it. So whatever way that this relationship ended, I feel like it had to end that way because of the fact that you would not have been able to get out of it on your own. Is what I'm seeing. So that's it, group one. I will leave the link in the description box if you want to book a more in-depth reading about like this relationship, or even if you wanted to book one for a different relationship. Maybe you got all the answers you need to hear and there's another one that you want to know about. And it doesn't have to be romantic either. It can be any type of friendship, a relationship with a family member. It doesn't have to be romantic. So yeah, I'll leave the link to that in the description box. And I hope that this was helpful, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Okay, group number 2. So let's see what your relationship with this person would have been like. Okay, so the first card that I pulled is the Alone in the World card. And that card is pretty self-explanatory. It looks like this relationship would have been one where you just constantly felt like you were by yourself. Just felt like you just were not being heard, like you were not being validated. It's like just feeling a sense of loneliness. I'm actually getting an image in my mind right now of like two people lying in a bed next to each other, but like one person is like crying and the other person just has their back turned to them and it's just asleep. So it's like that feeling of being in the same room as someone and being upset about something possibly, but they kind of don't care or they're not paying attention, and you're left feeling lonely even though you're in the room with someone who claims to love you. Definitely been there, and definitely not a good feeling. And I'm seeing here, because just looking at the card, you see that the woman in the card is nude, and I'm reading that as vulnerability, like feeling alone even in your most vulnerable times when you really, really need someone. Like that's when this person makes you feel the most abandoned. And it's interesting because the clarifier that I pulled for that is the 7 card, which is the message card. And to me, that means that, there is communication. Like, it's a type of relationship where you do sit down and talk to the person, but it's like, it's sort of like talking to a brick wall. Like this person could be kind of like dismissive, avoidant possibly, or you just see things in a different way from each other. So like you can't come to a resolution. You can't see eye to eye. It's like they deal with their emotions differently than you do. It's something like that, where even though there is communication, it's still this feeling of loneliness, like you can't get through to them. And like I said, it's constantly feeling abandoned even in your most vulnerable moments. That's what I'm seeing. So the next two cards are the Two of Cups and the Pathway card. So it looks like this relationship was destined, like you were destined to cross paths with each other. The Two of Cups is the soulmate card. So it's like, a destined or fated sort of connection. But, what a lot of people get confused about when it comes to soulmates is that they feel like a soulmate is someone who you are supposed to spend the rest of your life with, but that's not the case. And I've said this in like past videos. Soulmates are people who you most likely had a past life connection with, and they have reincarnated with you in this lifetime in order for you to learn some sort of lesson or evolve on a soul level. So they do end up, changing your life in some way, but it's not always meant to be permanent. But I do see that this person was meant to cross your path for sure. It's something important about this connection that was supposed to teach you something about yourself and help your soul to evolve. I'm actually going to pull one more. I'm going to pull a clarifier for that because I want to see if anything else comes out. Yep. Okay. The sudden wealth card. Yeah. So this just kind of shows me that this wasn't a relationship that was meant to last. This isn't the type of soulmate relationship that's meant to last long term. This is one of those soulmate relationships that it's like a designated time that it's supposed to happen, and then a designated time where it's supposed to end. So initially it could feel like it was supposed to last. It could feel like, oh, I met this person and it feels like I hit the jackpot, but it's like just as quickly as they come, they go. Like what the image that my guides are showing me is literally someone who hits the lottery, but then ends up losing all of their money very quickly. Oof. I wish I could describe the feeling. It's like they're sending me the message in the form of like a image, but also in the form of like a feeling of someone who, like I said, hits the jackpot and they're like so excited, then they end up losing everything, or they end up losing like the winning lottery ticket. So yeah, I can see that this relationship was very important and the loss was very, very hard. Like it was a very difficult loss. So, if you are still grieving this relationship, which you probably are, because, that's probably why you were drawn towards this pile, be very gentle with yourself, because that energy that I'm getting is very heavy. It's not a good feeling to have like that high of like, yes, this is my person. And then for it to end so abruptly, or to end a certain way that it ended. Just be very gentle with yourself. That's the best I can describe it. I wish I could describe the feeling that my guide sent me a little better. So yeah, it basically, this relationship would have ended up ending eventually anyway. It wasn't something that was meant to last long term. So the next two cards are the Four of Swords in the reverse and the Despair card. Interesting combination. So with the Four of Swords in the reverse, I'm seeing that there was no peace of mind in this relationship. Like I said, it just feels like you both were on two different pages. The energy that I'm getting is interesting. It's like neither one of you are necessarily bad people, quote unquote. Like I don't think you're doing anything intentionally to hurt each other. It's just you're on two different pages. Like you are just not speaking the same language, it feels like. So you cannot meet each other's emotional needs. You're constantly, bumping heads. And it's a bit different from the other pile that I did, because the other pile I was seeing like explosive sort of fighting and stuff like that. I was seeing like, power struggles, someone trying to get the upper hand. This one doesn't feel like that. It just feels like a lot of miscommunication, a lot of not being on the same page, and just feeling very alone, feeling very empty because of it. So it's like it just sort of feels like eventually you just become numb to it, and you just kind of like accept it for what it is, but still stay in the relationship. And, that's no way to live. And, I've definitely seen couples like this where the relationship has just completely fizzled out. Like they're tired of talking. They're tired of trying to compromise. They're tired of communicating. Whatever problems they have, they just keep it to themselves at this point, and they just continue on with their daily routine. They probably live together or they have kids together or whatever. So they just continue on with their daily routine, but they don't even attempt to meet each other's emotional needs anymore. They don't even attempt to express themselves anymore. They're just like, it is what it is at this point. So they kind of numb, like just become numb to it. And again, that's no way to live. Because I'm seeing here, like I said, it's like not being at peace, but also just not being like explosive or even trying to make it work, like not even communicating your needs outwardly, not even expressing yourself, you know. So yeah, I hope that that makes sense. It's like this numb feeling, or like this defeated feeling, this acceptance, like, you know, it is what it is. I don't even get sad at this anymore. I don't even try anymore. I don't even expect anything anymore. That sort of energy. When they do something wrong, it's like, I expect them to do that. I'm not even going to address this. I'm not going to let this bother me. It's just like a sort of thing. And then, that doesn't sound too fun when it comes to a relationship. And I've definitely been there for sure in the past. I've definitely had relationships like that where it was just like, I'm not even going to address this anymore. Whatever. I've addressed this too many times. I've had this in not just romantic relationships. I've had this in friendships as well. Like, nah, I'm not even going to address this. Whatever. Well, not friendships. I've been blessed that I have not experienced this with friendships. I've experienced this with members of my family, I should say. And yeah, it's like, it really kills any type of happiness that you can even have with the person. Like, how can you even have happy moments with the person when you're in this state of just being numb and just being like, it's whatever at this point, you know? So the next two cards are the Magician card and the Courtship card. So what's interesting is that the two of you would have had a series of restarts if you would have stayed together. It's like you would have kept trying to restart the relationship. You would have kept being like, okay, like this major thing might have happened, right? Like some major issue may have happened, and it was spirit's way of telling you it's time to break up. And so then maybe you break up for a little bit, but then you come right back and you try again. So I'm just seeing like a series of breakups to makeups. And it's like spirit is wanting you, or God, the universe, you know, whatever you believe in, is wanting you to actually break up for good. But both of you are holding on to each other and just constantly getting back together even when you shouldn't. So this relationship would have went on for a while. It's like you would have, I'm hearing like deja vu, like you would have kept entering the same relationship over and over, but expecting something different, you know? And I feel like a lot of people can relate to this, that those on and off again relationships where you're like, this time it'll be better. This time we'll make it work. And it's like, no. Because sometimes it's not meant to work because two people are on completely two different pages, and they're meant to go their separate ways on two completely different paths. And so no matter how many times you would try to restart it, it would always end up the same exact way until eventually, like I said, you would end up kind of complacent and just being like, you know what, it is what it is. I don't even expect much anymore. I don't even care anymore. For some of you, I'm getting a message of like one of you actually choosing to step out on the relationship and date someone else. So I'm not seeing physical cheating, but it could have been a little bit of emotional cheating. Like, I'm not getting my needs met. You know, I'm pretty much numb to this relationship at this point, but I don't want to leave it. So I'm going to go ahead and have like an emotional affair. And this could be you, it could be the other person, or it could be both of you doing this. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if either one of you were doing this, because this relationship feels so hollow, and it feels, like I said, just very complacent, very like, you know, I'm in it, but I'm not in it. You know, I'm in it, but my heart's not in it. So I'm seeing someone having like an outside something going on. And it doesn't have to even be that someone is having an emotional affair either. I could also read this as someone is just spending a lot of time doing something else outside of the relationship just to feel that intensity that they're not getting in the relationship. So maybe, you know, maybe you become like a workaholic and you start pouring all of your energy into your career because at least that gives you some sort of passion, that gives you some sort of rush. You know, it's like seeking something outside of the relationship because the relationship is just so cold, boring is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing the word boring. And it's like both people just kind of gave up, and the relationship has become more of a routine than anything. So that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm seeing would have the relationship would have been like. If you want a more in-depth reading about this connection, or maybe you got the answers you needed from this connection and you want a more in-depth reading about another connection, you can book a reading with me. I will leave the link in the description box. This is going to be a special that I'm having on my site for those of you who want that closure, or you want more in-depth Okay, group number 3. So we're going to go ahead and look at what your relationship would have been like if you would have stayed with this person long term. So the first card that came out is the Perchance to Dream card. So what I'm getting from this card is that there would have been a lot of confusion within this relationship. There's something here about being kind of disconnected from reality. I feel like you may have put this person on a pedestal a bit, and you have like an idealized version of who this person is in your mind. And at times it's like they're showing you that they're not that person, like they're not that idealized version of themselves that you might think they are. But because you're so attached to that idealized version, you're constantly trying to find it in them, you know? So like, for example, let's say this is a very selfish person, but in your mind, in the idealized version of them, like within your own mind, they are a very generous person. So whenever they show their selfish side, you could find a way to explain it away, or you could find a way to overlook it because you've already attached yourself to the idea that they are generous. You see what I'm saying? It's like they could have presented themselves to be a certain way in the beginning, and it's like this great version of themselves, and you could be so attached to that version that no matter what they show you, you find a way to explain it away, or you find a way to overlook it, and you find a way to really focus in on their good traits, even when maybe the good traits maybe isn't even there. You could be even projecting your own good traits onto them. So there's like a disconnect from reality when it comes to this relationship, which, you know, I've been there. I feel like a lot of people have been there where, you know, especially if you have like an anxious attachment style, anxious, preoccupied attachment style. You know, people with that attachment style tend to do that. They tend to try to search for like the good traits in the person, even when the person is showing otherwise. But it's very hard to have a genuine relationship like that. It's very hard to have like, you know, true intimacy, true real love. It's very hard because you're in a relationship with a fantasy and you're not in a relationship with the real them. And at times it can really put you in like a very confused sort of headspace is what I'm seeing. It's like a lot of cognitive dissonance, a lot of like internal struggle, because who you think they are and who they're showing up as, it just keeps clashing. So I'm also seeing in the next two cards, marriage and the Two of Swords in the reverse. So you very well could have ended up marrying this person. But again, there's this disconnect from reality with this Two of Swords being here in the reverse. It's like overlooking all of the red flags, or overlooking all of their traits that are undesirable. It's overlooking all of them just for the sake of getting married. You see what I'm saying? It's like, and even for some of you, I'm hearing that they didn't start to show their true colors until after you got married. So you could have gotten married to this person, and then they really could have started showing like who they really are. But you could have been so like excited to get married, like you could have overlooked a lot of, like I said, the red flags. But then when you get married, it's like they kind of turn the red flags up a notch. Like you really get to see who they truly are now that, you know, you are bound together by this marriage, is what I'm seeing. I'm gonna pull one more, and I'm not saying that this person is like the worst person in the world. I mean, for some of you, this person is a straight up narcissist. I'm not gonna lie, because the confusion that's here, it's like it feels very gaslighty to me, but it's not going to be for all of you. Like, this is a general reading, so it's going to be different for different people. So like I said, some of you, straight up narcissistic person who is going to show their real colors after you get married. But for some of you, it's like, this is not a terrible person. It's just one of those things where you're just in the honeymoon stage, and there's this bliss that you're feeling, and you know, then the relationship gets serious. Maybe you rush into marriage, and then afterwards the reality starts to set in of like, okay, the honeymoon phase had me with, you know, these rose colored glasses on, and this is not truly who this person is. Let me pull one more. Sorry if you can hear that very loud plane going over my house, which only seems to happen when I'm recording. Okay, the mature woman card. Yeah, so it looks like within this connection, or specifically within this marriage, because I'm seeing that it would have resulted in marriage. I'm seeing that very strongly. Within this connection, I feel like you would have always you would have had to been the bigger person a lot of the time. And sometimes, I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain this. Basically, you are the one that's keeping the magic alive in this relationship. You're the one overlooking certain things and constantly trying to see the good in this person. So you're the one that's keeping like the magic and the romance alive. Because I feel like they're not doing the same for you. Like they don't try to overlook like your flaws. Like they might actually be the ones pointing out your flaws all the time. They don't try to search for the good in you. It's like they actually could, a lot of the time point out, all the things that are wrong, or like the bad, quote unquote, bad things about you, or they may even project bad things about you onto you that aren't even there, because they're trying to, it's like they're trying to at times like shift the blame from themselves onto you. I'm telling you, I don't like the way this feels. Like for some of you, like I said, it feels like a very narcissistic person, like gaslighting, projecting. When you try to call them out on something, or when you try to stand up for yourself in some way, they find a way to flip it around and blame you. And then you end up taking on like the blame for something that you didn't even do. You end up taking on their bad traits because they're projecting it onto you. It's something like that. All I know is that, you are the one that is keeping this relationship alive, because you're the one, like I said, that's constantly trying to see the good in the other person, constantly trying to be the bigger person whenever there is an argument, constantly trying to take the high road. So it's you who is, it's you who's like the blessing in the relationship, in all honesty. And actually, I'm seeing that, you are exactly who you say you are. Like, the person that you have presented yourself to be is exactly who you are. And so even after you get married, it's not like your mask falls off and you become this whole different person. You are who you have been from the beginning, and it's them, it feels like, that kind of switches up, or it's like them who, you had the rose colored glasses on, and now they're like showing up as a whole new person. I really hope this is making sense, because I'm getting two different groups. Like for some of you, like I said, it's a straight up narcissistic person, gaslighting, projections, all of that. But for some of you, the person is not necessarily narcissistic. It's just that you rushed into the relationship so quickly, and now you're seeing certain things about each other that, kind of makes you incompatible, but you're still trying to force it, or you're still trying to make it work. You're still trying to see the best in the other person in order to keep the relationship afloat. So like I said, it's different groups, but take whichever group resonates. So the next two cards are the Hermit card and the High Honor card. So there's a lot of time spent alone in this relationship, is what I'm hearing. A lot of time self-reflecting at some point. So it starts out, like I said, as you constantly, like I said, trying to still see the good in the other person, holding on to the idealized version of them, keeping these rose-colored glasses on. But at some point in time, this does switch, and you start to kind of come to your senses, or you start to like do a bit of soul searching. Like, wait a minute, something doesn't feel right about this relationship. You might come across like some information about like, attachment styles, or even like narcissistic abuse, because some of you, this is a narcissist. It's like coming across some sort of information, and then doing a bit of like soul searching, kind of retreating a little bit from the relationship in order to take a good look at it from a distance. So it's like no longer putting in so much emotional energy and so much effort. Now it's like withdrawing a little bit and like really analyzing like what is really going on in this relationship, is what I'm seeing. And also trying to figure out like what's going on within me that's making me want to even give into this relationship or stay in this relationship. I just see like there being some sort of switch within you, where it's like the rose colored glasses sort of come off, and you start like this journey of just, like I said, exploring like the depths of this relationship, what it's built on, what it actually is. It's like coming down to reality, is what I'm seeing. And just also seeing that this relationship lacks, fairness. Like it's not fair that you're the one that is constantly trying to see the good in them. You're the one that's constantly trying to take the high road, and they're not reciprocating that energy at all. It's like you're the only one keeping the relationship afloat, and you are like finally seeing that, that's just not fair, and it's not healthy either, is what I'm seeing. So I do see you kind of withdrawing a little bit from this person emotionally in order to take a very grounded look at what's going on. So with the Empress card being here and the Gift card being here, I am seeing that this person, it's like, I'm seeing that they are more of like in the relationship dynamic, you would have been more of the giver and they would have been more of the taker, which I mean, we've seen, within these earlier cards. It's like you're giving so much that it's actually draining you. You're the one that's keeping the relationship afloat. You're the one that's constantly trying. You're the one that's, probably planning all the date nights and, constantly trying to do nice things for them, and they're not reciprocating. You could be the one making the romantic gestures and things like that. Like they're taking, they're not giving. And I'm seeing here that this is like draining to you. And that could be the reason why you eventually had to kind of take a step back and evaluate the relationship, because of the fact that you were being so drained, with the Empress card being here and the Gift card in reverse. I am also seeing that your confidence was definitely diminishing with this relationship, which makes sense because like I said earlier, I just keep seeing you trying to see the good and them only being able to see the bad, or them only pointing out your flaws. And also just being in this type of dynamic where you are the one that has put them up on a pedestal of some type. That will definitely diminish your sense of self-worth, because when you put someone up on a pedestal and you idealize them, it's like you put them now in a position where they can look down on you, so I feel like you may have put this person on a pedestal early on in the beginning, and it's very difficult to knock somebody off of a pedestal once they're up there. Like once you see somebody very highly and you idealize them, it's very hard to knock them off that pedestal. And that's what I'm seeing for you. It's like your confidence diminishing slowly but surely throughout this relationship. And I mentioned this in one of the other piles where I said that these types of relationships can, seep into other areas of your life. Like, if you have any goals or dreams, suddenly you don't have the confidence to go after them because this relationship is tearing down your confidence slowly but surely. It can start to affect your finances. It can start to affect your ability to go out and make new friends. It's like it can just really spill over into all areas of your life is what I'm seeing. So your confidence would have been definitely diminishing. I am seeing here that eventually it feels like out of, oh my gosh, another airplane going over my house. 1 second. Okay. It feels like out of all the other piles, it looks like in this pile, you would have been the one most likely to eventually up and leave, only because I see the Hermit card being here and the High Honor card. I think eventually you would have kind of came to your senses and you would have left, but your confidence would have been drastically beaten down by the time you did leave. And so it would have taken you a very long time to not only leave, but it would have taken you a long time to rebuild your confidence after you left. So yeah, this relationship would have just, your confidence would have been greatly diminished. And for some of you, you could be, because I just heard it's already been diminished. Like for some of you, it's like you could be thinking this relationship, even though it was short-lived, it already beat your confidence down. So imagine, like within this spread, you staying in it long-term, your confidence would have been beaten down like times 10. And like I said, it would have took you a very, very long time to rebuild it. I do see that there could have been, I'm hearing like a dialogue, like in your mind of like, why did I spend so much time in that? Why did I waste so much time in that? Like now I have to rebuild myself from scratch. It's like, wishing that you would have gotten out of it sooner. If you would have stayed in this relationship long term, it's like with the ending, you would have wished that you got out of it sooner because, like I said, it takes so much time to rebuild your confidence when the longer you stay in these types of dynamics. Especially because I do also hear that you were just the one that was also taking the blame for a lot of things. Like when there was an issue in the relationship, the person would blame you for it, even if they were the ones that were in the wrong, and you would take that on, like, you know what, you're right, I shouldn't have done that, you're right, I should have reacted this way, or I should have, it's like constantly taking on the blame, taking on too much blame that you're not even responsible for, and that in itself can really diminish your confidence, and it can also cause you not to trust yourself. I feel like when you leave this relationship, or when you would have left this relationship, you would have no longer trusted yourself or trusted your judgment because of the constant like gaslighting, deflecting, and things like that. So that in itself would have been very difficult to repair. Like the relationship with yourself would have been difficult to rebuild, and it would have been difficult to build a relationship with other people as well, because when you don't trust yourself, you tend to not trust other people either, and you don't want to let them in. So it would have definitely diminished your ability to trust people and open up to them. I'm just hearing like the ending, you being like, I wish I would have gotten out of it sooner. I'm not gonna lie. So That is it. If you want a more in-depth personalized reading, I will leave the link to my tarot website. I am selling a special reading specifically about this so that you can get, an in-depth look of what your relationship would have been like with this person. Or maybe, in this reading, you got all the closure you need. And maybe you want to book a reading about another relationship that you had that you need closure from. So, you have that option too. And like I said, the link to that will be in the description box. So, yeah. Thank you guys for watching. I really hope that this reading was helpful, and I will see you in my next video.